Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone.
Sometimes we mistake kindness for weakness. We confuse compassion with self-abandonment. And if you've ever felt drained because you gave too much of yourself, your time, your energy, your forgiveness, to people who didn't honor it, then this message is for you. Because the truth is, life will break you down if you keep being soft to everyone. And I don't mean soft in your heart. I mean soft in your boundaries, soft in your standards, soft in the way you let people treat you. There's something profoundly beautiful about vulnerability. It's the moment when the mask comes off, when the armor we've worn for so long finally cracks open, and the world gets to see the truest version of us. Vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, creativity, and courage. Without it, we live shallow lives, never fully known, never fully loved. But here's the part we don't talk about enough: vulnerability without boundaries is not strength. It's self-betrayal. I want to be very clear here. Vulnerability is not about bleeding your heart out to anyone who will listen. It's not about sharing your story with people who have no intention of honoring it. Vulnerability is sacred. It's holy ground. And when you offer that part of yourself to people who are careless, manipulative, or emotionally absent, you're not practicing courage. You're abandoning yourself. Think about this. Every time you told your story to someone who didn't deserve it, how did you feel? Every time you gave your heart to someone who wasn't ready to hold it, what did it cost you? Every time you shared your wounds with someone who only used them against you, what part of yourself did you lose? We've all been there. Maybe it was a friend you trusted who gossiped about your deepest struggle. Maybe it was a partner you forgave over and over again, even when they proved they weren't willing to change. Maybe it was a family member who dismissed your pain, telling you to just get over it. And yet, you kept opening up. You kept softening. You kept giving pieces of yourself to people who had already shown you they weren't safe. That's not vulnerability. That's self-betrayal. Let me tell you something that took me years to learn: your vulnerability is a gift, and not everyone has earned the right to receive it. When I say earned, I don't mean people have to be perfect. No one is. What I mean is they need to show you they are trustworthy. They need to prove with their actions, not just their words, that they can hold your story without judgment, without weaponizing it, without running away when it gets messy. Too often we confuse vulnerability with exposure. We think if we just keep showing our wounds, eventually someone will come along and heal them. But vulnerability isn't about reckless exposure. It's about intentional sharing. It's about saying, I am willing to let you see me, but only if you have shown me that you can be trusted with what you see. You see, when you keep being vulnerable with people who hurt you, what happens over time is devastating. You start to believe that your pain is too much, that your needs are too heavy, that your truth is a burden. Not because that's true, but because you've been handing your heart to people who couldn't hold it. And slowly, you stop trusting yourself. That's what self-betrayal does. It erodes your self-trust. And when self-trust goes, everything else goes with it. I want to pause here and speak directly to the person who's listening and thinking, but if I stop being vulnerable with everyone, doesn't that make me hard? Doesn't that mean I'm closing myself off? No, that's the lie we've been taught, that if you don't let everyone in, you're cold, unkind, or selfish. The truth is, boundaries don't make you hard. They make you safe. Boundaries are what protect the softest, most beautiful parts of you. Without them, your softness gets trampled. With them, your softness gets honored. Let me give you an example. Imagine you own a home. It's filled with things that matter to you. Memories, heirlooms, treasures that can't be replaced. Now imagine you leave the front door wide open, day and night, and anyone who wants to come in does. Strangers wander through. Some take what they want. Some break things. Some laugh at what they don't understand. And when you finally realize the damage, you blame yourself for not being stronger, for not being enough. But the truth is, the problem wasn't your home. The problem was that you left the door wide open. Vulnerability without boundaries is leaving your soul wide open without discernment, and then wondering why you feel robbed, broken, and unsafe. So here's the shift. Vulnerability doesn't mean everyone gets access to you. Vulnerability means the right people get access to you. It means choosing wisely who gets to walk through the doors of your heart. And I know what you might be thinking. But how do I know who's safe? You know by watching. You know by paying attention. Safe people aren't perfect, but they are consistent. They listen when you speak. They honor your story even when they don't fully understand it. They don't use your pain against you. They show up when it's inconvenient. They don't disappear when things get messy. Unsafe people, on the other hand, will show you in 1,000 ways that they don't deserve your softness. They dismiss your feelings. They twist your words. They laugh at your dreams. They disappear when you need them most. And if you keep being vulnerable with people like that, you're not practicing courage, you're practicing self-harm in the name of love. So here's my invitation to you. Stop betraying yourself in the name of connection. Stop confusing being open with being unprotected. Stop giving your deepest self to people who haven't earned the right to see it. Your story is sacred. Your heart is sacred. Your vulnerability is sacred. And it's time to start treating it that way. There's a quote I love that says, "Don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm." That's what happens when we confuse vulnerability with boundarylessness. We burn ourselves down just to make others comfortable. And in the end, no one is served. Because here's the truth: when you practice vulnerability with the right people, it heals you. It deepens connection. It strengthens trust. But when you practice vulnerability with the wrong people, it wounds you. It diminishes your sense of worth. It erodes your courage to try again. You were not put on this earth to betray yourself over and over again in the name of being nice. You were not created to hand your soul to people who keep dropping it. You were made to love courageously, but also to protect fiercely. And the moment you start honoring your boundaries is the moment you stop betraying yourself. So the next time you feel that pull to open up, pause and ask yourself, has this person earned the right to hear my story? If the answer is no, hold your sacredness close. That's not coldness, that's wisdom, that's love, that's self-respect. And when you do share with the people who have proven themselves trustworthy, you'll find that vulnerability with boundaries is not self-betrayal. It's self-honor. It's the most courageous act of love you'll ever give, both to yourself and to those who truly deserve it. There's a story many of us carry deep in our bones, the story that setting boundaries makes us mean, that saying no makes us selfish, that protecting our time, our energy, our peace somehow makes us unloving. And so we keep softening, keep giving, keep saying yes, when our souls are screaming no. But I want to tell you something that will change your life if you let it sink in. Boundaries are not cruel. Boundaries are compassionate. When I first began to study the way humans connect, I noticed something fascinating. The people who were the most compassionate, the ones who seemed to love with an open heart, the ones who could forgive without resentment, they all had one thing in common. They were the best at boundaries. That shocked me, because I thought compassion meant never saying no. I thought love meant tolerating anything. I thought kindness meant making yourself endlessly available. But that's not compassion. That's exhaustion in disguise. Think about it this way. Imagine a river with no banks. The water just floods everywhere with no direction, no form, no life. But when you put banks around that river, it doesn't take away its power. It channels it, it gives it flow. It makes it life-giving. That's what boundaries do for love and compassion. They don't take it away. They make it stronger, safer, more sustainable. But too many of us have been taught the opposite. Maybe you grew up in a home where your needs weren't respected, and you learned to survive by keeping everyone else comfortable. Maybe you grew up in a culture that told you being good person meant always putting others first, even at the cost of yourself. Maybe you've been in relationships where the moment you set a boundary, you were accused of being cold, selfish, or ungrateful. Over time, you start to believe that having boundaries means you're the problem. Let me tell you this: boundaries don't make you unkind. They make your kindness sustainable. Because without boundaries, kindness curdles into resentment. Without boundaries, compassion collapses into exhaustion. Without boundaries, love turns into martyrdom. And nothing good grows out of that. I want you to think about the last time you said yes, when you really wanted to say no. How did you feel afterward? Maybe you felt drained. Maybe you felt invisible. Maybe you even felt a little resentful toward the very person you were trying to help. That's what happens when you say yes without boundaries. You're not really giving love. You're giving it resentfully, half-heartedly, and in the process, betraying yourself. That is not compassion. That's compliance. Real compassion, the kind that heals and connects, always has boundaries. Because compassion isn't about doing everything for everyone. It's about showing up authentically with a full heart. And you can't do that if you're stretched thin, if you're worn down, if you're silently bleeding out because you've been too afraid to say, "This is my limit." Let me share something personal. For years, I struggled with overcommitting. I wanted to be there for everyone. Every call, every favor, every need. I wanted to say yes because I thought that made me good, that made me loving. But inside I was crumbling. I was resentful, burned out, and angry at people for taking advantage of me. But the truth was, they weren't the problem. I was, because I had taught them how to treat me. I had taught them that my yes meant nothing, that my time and energy were endless, that they could cross any line and I would still show up. The day I realized that was the day I understood boundaries for the first time. Boundaries aren't about controlling other people. They're about controlling myself. They're about saying, here's what I will allow, and here's what I won't. Here's how I'll show up, and here's what I'll walk away from. And when I started living with those boundaries, something incredible happened. I became more compassionate, not less. Because now, when I said yes, I meant it. When I showed up, I was present. When I loved fully. Because I wasn't secretly resentful in the background. That's why boundaries are compassionate. They protect both you and the other person. They keep relationships clean. They prevent the slow buildup of bitterness that destroys connection. Without boundaries, we don't tell the truth. We smile while we're angry. We nod while we're exhausted. We say yes while our hearts say no. And the result is dishonesty, disconnection, and eventually explosion. Now, let's be real, setting boundaries is hard. Especially when you've been trained to believe that your worth comes from pleasing others. Saying no feels like rejection. Saying, this doesn't work for me, feels like betrayal. And when people push back, and they will, you'll start to question yourself. But here's the thing, when you set a boundary and someone calls you selfish, it's usually because they were benefiting from you having none. Their discomfort is not proof that you're wrong. Their discomfort is proof that your boundary was needed. Here's another truth that's hard to swallow. Not everyone will like your boundaries. Some relationships will shift when you set them. Some people will leave. And that will hurt. But I want you to hear me on this. Any relationship that requires you to betray yourself in order to keep it alive is not a healthy relationship. Let it go. Healthy love, real love, welcomes boundaries. Safe people respect your no. Safe people honor your limits. Safe people celebrate the fact that you are choosing to protect your energy so you can give them your best self. Unsafe people will always push back, guilt trip you, or try to convince you that boundaries are cruel. But that says more about them than it does about you. And here's the beauty of boundaries. They create freedom. When you have them, you're not stuck in cycles of resentment. You're not carrying the weight of obligations you never wanted to carry. You're not living for everyone else's approval. Boundaries give you the freedom to show up as your truest, fullest self. They give you the freedom to love with depth, not just duty. They give you the freedom to rest, to breathe, to recharge, to choose. So if you've been afraid of boundaries, if you've been telling yourself they're unkind, I want you to reframe them in your heart. Boundaries are one of the highest forms of love. They say, I love you enough to tell you the truth. I love you enough not to lie with my actions. I love you enough not to give you half of me while resenting you behind your back. I love myself enough to honor my own needs so I can keep showing up fully. Boundaries are not cruelty. Cruelty is pretending, lying, resenting, or ghosting because you never had the courage to speak the truth. Boundaries are compassion. They are honesty. They are integrity. They are love in action. And so, the next time you feel that knot in your stomach when you're about to say yes, pause. Ask yourself, if I say yes here, will it be honest or will it be betrayal? Will it be compassion or will it be compliance? Will it give life or will it drain it? Let the answer guide you. Because here's the deepest truth. The people who truly love you don't want a hollow version of you. They want the real you. And the real you can only show up when you have the courage to set boundaries. So no, boundaries are not cruel. They're the greatest act of compassion you can offer yourself and others. And when you learn to set them, you'll find that your love doesn't shrink. It expands, it deepens, it grows stronger. Because love, like a river, flows best when it has banks to guide it. We live in a world that often confuses two very different things, dignity and respect. Dignity is inherent. Every human being, no matter who they are, no matter what they've done, carries dignity simply because they exist. We owe dignity to everyone. But respect is different. Respect is not automatic. Respect is not something you hand out like candy at a parade. Respect is earned. And the moment you forget that distinction, you set yourself up for heart-hatch. Many of us grew up being told, be respectful to everyone. And at a basic level, yes, we should treat people with courtesy, kindness, and decency. But somewhere along the way, many of us twisted that teaching into something dangerous. We began believing that every person automatically deserves full access to our trust, our time, our attention, our honor. And that's not true. When you hand out respect freely to people who haven't earned it, you place your worth in the wrong hands. You give authority to voices that haven't proven themselves safe. And slowly, without even realizing it, you start shrinking yourself to fit other people's expectations. Respect is sacred. It should not be a cheap commodity. Think about the times in your life when you respected someone deeply. Why did you respect them? Probably not because of their title or their position. Probably not because they demanded it. You respected them because of how they lived, because they showed up with integrity, because they listened, because they kept their word, because they treated people with fairness, because they were consistent. Respect grows out of character, not out of entitlement. But here's what happens when you don't understand this. You start giving respect where it hasn't been earned. You start listening to voices that shouldn't guide you. You start tolerating behavior that chips away at your self-worth. Maybe it's a boss who belittles you, and you tell yourself, I have to respect them because of their position. Maybe it's a partner who constantly breaks promises, and you say, but I owe them respect because I love them. Maybe it's a friend who gossips about you, and you think, I should still respect them because we've known each other for so long. But here's the truth, respect isn't owed just because of a title or a label or a history. Respect is earned through action. And if someone consistently shows you that they don't deserve it, you're not being noble by respecting them anyway. You're being self-destructive. Now, I want to pause here because some of you may be feeling uncomfortable. You might be thinking, but isn't that cruel? Isn't that unkind? No. Treating someone with basic human dignity is never optional. You can be polite, you can be kind, you can be humane. That's dignity. But respecting someone, honoring their voice in your life, trusting them with your heart, admiring their character, that is not automatic. That is a privilege people must earn. Think of it like this: if you had a child, would you let any stranger off the street walk in and start teaching them how to live, shaping their mind, influencing their choices? Of course not. You'd want to know who that person was, how they lived, whether they could be trusted. You'd want them to prove they were worthy of that role. Your heart, your mind, your soul deserve that same level of protection. Not everyone should get to influence you. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. One of the most dangerous myths we live under is the idea that if you're a good person, you'll respect everyone equally. But when you respect everyone equally, you blur the lines. You give power to people who don't deserve it. And when you do that, you end up living a life that isn't yours. You live according to the loudest, pushiest, most manipulative voices in the room. Here's the raw truth. Not everyone deserves your respect. Some people have lied too many times. Some people have manipulated too often. Some people have broken trust without making any effort to rebuild it. Some people have shown you again and again that they are not safe. And when you keep respecting them, you teach them that their behavior has no consequences. You teach them that they can treat you however they want and still hold a place of honor in your life. Respect is not free. Respect is not unconditional. Respect is earned, and when you finally realize that, you begin to live with a new kind of courage. You stop lowering your standards just to keep the peace. You stop silencing your voice just to make someone else comfortable. You stop pretending that loyalty means bowing down to people who don't value you. The most respectful thing you can do, for yourself and for others, is to hold people accountable to the standard of their actions. When someone shows up with integrity, respect them. When someone treats others with dignity, respect them. When someone is honest, consistent, compassionate, even when it's hard, respect them. But when someone lies, manipulates, or abuses your trust, you don't owe them respect. You owe yourself enough love to withdraw it. And here's the irony. When you start living this way, you actually become more loving. Because you're no longer spreading yourself thin, giving away honor to people who don't deserve it. You're no longer drained from trying to please everyone. Instead, you reserve your respect for people who truly earn it, and that creates deeper, healthier, more life-giving connections. I know this isn't easy. I know some of you have been raised to believe that you must respect authority no matter what. That you must respect family no matter what. That you must respect a partner no matter what. And questioning that feels terrifying. But let me tell you, unconditional respect is not love. It's bondage. It chains you to relationships that drain you. It silences your truth. It shrinks your soul. Real love, real respect is mutual. It flows both ways. If it only flows one way, if you're giving it but not receiving it, that's not respect, that's hierarchy. And love cannot thrive in hierarchy. It can only thrive in equality. So here's my challenge to you: start noticing who you give your respect to. Start asking yourself, has this person earned the right to shape my heart, my mind, my choices? If the answer is no, then you don't have to dishonor them, but you also don't have to respect them. You can treat them with basic kindness while protecting your soul from their influence. Because at the end of the day, respect is not about being polite, it's about alignment. It's about saying, I recognize the weight of your character, and I will honor it in my life. And not everyone deserves that. Not everyone has earned that. And that's okay. Your respect is valuable. Don't throw it around like loose change. Guard it, protect it. Offer it only to those who live with the kind of integrity that truly deserves it. Because when you do, you'll find that your relationships become richer, your self-worth becomes stronger, and your life begins to align with the truth of who you are. Respect is earned, not given freely. And the moment you start living by that truth is the moment you stop betraying yourself and start living with the strength, courage, and dignity you deserve. We live in a world that glorifies business, where being constantly available, constantly giving, constantly saying yes is treated like a badge of honor. If you're not exhausted, you're told you're not working hard enough. If you're not drained, you're told you're not loving deeply enough. And so, many of us spend our lives pouring ourselves out for everyone else, running on empty and calling it noble. But here's the truth: protecting your energy is not selfish. It's self-love. And if you don't protect it, no one else will. Your energy, your emotional, mental, and spiritual vitality is your life force. It is the well from which you love, create, serve, and connect. And like any well, it can run dry. If you keep giving without replenishing, if you keep saying yes without discernment, if you keep showing up for everyone else while abandoning yourself, eventually you'll hit a wall. And when you do, you won't just be tired. You'll be resentful, bitter, disconnected from yourself. That's the cost of living without protecting your energy. Think about the last time you said yes to something you didn't want to do. Maybe you went to a gathering you dreaded. Maybe you answered the phone when you knew it would drain you. Maybe you gave time, money, or emotional labor to someone who never reciprocates. How did you feel afterward? Probably not proud, probably not joyful, probably not connected. More likely, you felt drained. Maybe you even felt angry at yourself for not saying no. That's what happens when you give away energy carelessly. You betray yourself. And every time you do, a little piece of your light dims. We tell ourselves stories to justify it. We say, I don't want to disappoint them. Don't want to seem selfish. They need me. But here's the hard truth. When you abandon yourself to please others, it's not kindness. It's self-neglect dressed up as compassion. Real compassion cannot come from depletion. Real kindness cannot flow from resentment. Real love cannot thrive when it costs you your soul. Protecting your energy is one of the deepest forms of self-love because it says, I matter too. It says, my rest matters, my peace matters, my joy matters. And when you start living that way, something incredible happens. Your love for others actually becomes stronger. Because now, when you show up, you're not showing up out of obligation. You're showing up out of overflow. You're not giving from your emptiness, you're giving from your abundance. That's how love was always meant to be. But here's the problem. The world doesn't applaud you for protecting your energy. It applauds you for burning out. It praises you for being endlessly available. It calls you generous when you're actually depleted, selfless when you're actually invisible. And when you try to protect your energy, when you say no, when you step back, when you choose rest, you'll be called selfish. You'll be misunderstood. You'll be judged. And that's where courage comes in. Because protecting your energy is an act of rebellion in a culture that thrives on your exhaustion. Think of it like a phone battery. If you let your phone run all the way down to 0 every single day, eventually the battery will stop holding charge. It will die faster. It will wear out. Your soul works the same way. You can't keep letting yourself hit 0 and expect to live a full, vibrant life. You need to recharge. You need to protect what drains you. You need to pay attention to the people, the habits, the environments that drain your energy, and the ones that restore it. And then you need the courage to choose accordingly. Protecting your energy often means making hard choices. It means saying no to people you love when their demands are unreasonable. It means stepping away from relationships that are one-sided. It means limiting your exposure to negativity, drama, and chaos. It means not explaining yourself every time someone doesn't understand your boundaries. And yes, it means risking disappointing people. But I need you to hear this. Disappointing others is not the end of the world. But disappointing yourself over and over again, that is soul-killing. You cannot be everything to everyone. And you were never meant to be. You are not a machine. You are not a resource to be consumed. You are a human being with limits, with needs, with a soul that needs care. Protecting your energy is how you honor that truth. It's how you tell yourself, I am worth protecting. I am worth loving. I am worth taking care of. And let's be honest, part of the reason many of us struggle with protecting our energy is because we've attached our worth to being needed. We believe that if people need us, if they depend on us, if they keep coming to us, then we matter. So we overextend, we overgive. We drain ourselves dry just to feel valuable. But here's the painful truth. If your worth depends on burning yourself out for others, you will never feel enough. Because there will always be another need, another call, another demand. Your worth is not found in what you give away. Your worth is inherent. And the sooner you embrace that, the sooner you can protect your energy without guilt. Protecting your energy isn't about building walls around your heart. It's about building gates that you control. You decide who gets access. You decide what enters. You decide what drains you and what nourishes you. And when you take that authority back, your life begins to shift. You start spending time with people who inspire you, not people who exhaust you. You start investing in habits that fill you, not habits that deplete you. You start choosing rest without shame, joy without guilt, peace without apology. And the beautiful irony is this: when you protect your energy, you actually become more life, giving to the people around you. Because you're no longer running on fumes. You're full. You're vibrant. You're alive. And people feel that. They feel the difference between a yes that comes from resentment and a yes that comes from wholeness. They feel the difference between love that costs you your soul and love that flows from your soul. So let me say it again, protecting your energy is not selfish. Selfishness says, it's all about me and I don't care about you. Self-love says, I matter too, and because I honor myself, I can love you more honestly, more fully, more freely. Selfishness drains connection. Self-love strengthens it. If you want to live a courageous, wholehearted life, you have to stop glorifying burnout. You have to stop confusing self-neglect with love. You have to stop betraying yourself in the name of being a good person. Protect your energy. Guard it like the sacred treasure it is. Because it is from that place of rest, of wholeness, of strength, that your best love, your best creativity, your best compassion will flow. And when the world tells you you're selfish for protecting it, remember this: the most compassionate people you know, the ones who love the deepest, are the ones who have learned to guard their energy fiercely. That is not weakness. That is wisdom. That is love in its truest form. Strength with heart is not about becoming untouchable, and it's certainly not about shutting down the tender parts of yourself. Strength with heart is about learning how to stand in the fullness of who you are, even when the world tells you that you need to be either tough or soft, either cold or kind. We live in a culture that celebrates extremes. You're either a fighter or you're a pushover. You're either ruthless or you're a doormat. But the truth is, real strength doesn't live in those extremes. Real strength, the kind that changes lives, heals relationships, and protects your soul, comes from integrating both power and compassion, both backbone and tenderness. It's knowing when to rise and when to rest, when to hold on and when to let go, when to give love and when to withhold access. For too long, many of us have believed that to be strong, we have to be hardened. We've been taught that toughness means shutting down our emotions, closing our hearts, refusing to care too much, and keeping our guard up so no one can ever hurt us. That may protect you for a season, but in the long run it will suffocate you. A hardened heart may keep pain out, but it also keeps love out. It locks you in a cage where nothing gets in and nothing gets out. You stop bleeding, but you also stop breathing. That's not strength. That's survival mode, and it is not where you were meant to live. On the other hand, many of us confuse softness with love. We think that being endlessly forgiving, endlessly available, endlessly tolerant is proof of our goodness. We convince ourselves that letting people treat us however they want is noble, that putting ourselves last is selfless, that saying yes to everyone makes us compassionate. But the truth is, that isn't love. It's self-erasure. It's a slow abandonment of your soul. It leaves you exhausted, resentful, and hollow. And in the end, it doesn't teach people to love you better, it teaches them that you'll accept anything. That's not strength either. Strength with heart lives in the middle ground. It is the courage to open your chest and let love pour out, but also the courage to close the door when love is not being honored. It's the boldness to stand tall in your truth while also bending in compassion for those who are hurting. It's choosing to be fully alive, not hardened by bitterness, not drained by overgiving, but rooted in clarity and courage. Strength with heart is saying, I can be kind, but I will not be used. I can forgive, but I will not forget my worth. I can care deeply, but I will not carry what is not mine. I can love fully, but I will not lose myself in the process. That's not coldness. That's wisdom. That's not weakness. That's power. There's a difference between a person who shuts down and a person who stands strong. Shutting down says, I don't care anymore. Standing strong says, I care too much about myself to keep letting this happen. Shutting down disconnects you from your heart. Strength with heart roots you in it. Shutting down builds walls. Strength with heart builds gates. Gates that can open for the right people and close for the wrong ones. To live this way, you need courage. Because strength with heart will always be misunderstood by some people. When you say no, people will call you selfish. When you set a boundary, people will call you unkind. When you stop giving endlessly, people will call you cold. But their disappointment is not a reflection of your character. It's a reflection of how much they benefited from your lack of boundaries. Strength with heart is not about making everyone happy. It's about living in alignment with your truth. And let's be clear, strength with heart doesn't mean you don't get hurt. It doesn't mean you're invincible. In fact, it means you will probably feel things more deeply because you're no longer numbing yourself with hardness or distracting yourself with over-giving. You'll feel the sting of rejection. You'll feel the ache of letting someone go. You'll feel the discomfort of being misunderstood. But here's the miracle. You'll also feel the beauty of being loved rightly. You'll feel the joy of being respected. You'll feel the peace of honoring your own soul. And that, my friend, is worth every ounce of discomfort. Strength with heart is the only way forward because it is the only way to live whole. To live with a hardened heart is to cut yourself off from love. To live with no boundaries is to cut yourself off from yourself. But to live with strength and heart together is to stand in the paradox of being human, fragile and resilient, tender and fierce, vulnerable and powerful. Imagine what your life would look like if you chose strength with heart every day. Imagine the relationships that would deepen because you would no longer hide your truth. Imagine the relationships that would fall away because they could no longer survive without taking advantage of your softness. Imagine the energy you'd reclaim, the peace you'd feel, the freedom you'd know. That is what happens when you stop betraying yourself and start honoring the strength inside of you. And here's the thing, strength with heart is contagious. When you live this way, you give others permission to live this way too. You show your children what it looks like to be both kind and strong. You show your friends what it looks like to love without losing yourself. You show the world that strength isn't about domination and compassion isn't about being a doormat. You show that wholeness is possible. So I'll say this as clearly as I can: stop trying to be either hardened or endlessly soft. Stop living in the extremes that rob you of your fullness. Instead, choose the middle way. Choose strength with heart. Choose to stand tall without closing off. Choose to love without abandoning yourself. Choose to be courageous enough to keep your heart open and strong enough to protect it at the same time. Because at the end of the day, strength without heart makes you unapproachable, and heart without strength makes you unprotected. But strength with heart, that makes you unstoppable. So here's my challenge to you: stop betraying yourself in the name of kindness. Stop calling self-abandonment love. Stop being soft to people who don't deserve your softness. You were not born to be a doormat. You were born to be a soul on fire, compassionate, courageous, and strong enough to love without losing yourself.